Let's look at what kind of democracy Zelenskyy is leading in Ukraine. He not only jailed his political opponents very, very, very early on, he banned their entire political party. There are so many different, he shut down any media that was not controlled by him and his government, essentially. So no free speech, no room for any political opposition. And then he went after religion. No religious freedom in this country. He shut down the second largest Christian church in that country. And for what? Under the guise of democracy and freedom? How is this representative of the kind of democracy that our founders envisioned? It doesn't.
So to that point, you were one of the most outspoken anti-war congresspeople in the country while you served, and you paid the price for it. I mean, literally, again, Hillary was calling you a Russian stooge or whatever they were saying about you, because you were anti-war. So right now with this Ukraine situation, we are not at war. Congress has not declared war, but we are funding a war to over $100 billion at this point, another $40 billion just in the $1.7 trillion bill. We're funding a war, we're giving weapons, we're giving intelligence, we're training soldiers. To me, that kind of sounds like we're at war.
It essentially is a proxy war. And this is yet another way that this administration and Congress, Democrats and Republicans in Congress, have once again bypassed their constitutional responsibility. If they want to go to war with Russia, which they've made very clear that that is what they want, both directly and verbally and also indirectly through their actions, make your case. Make your case to the American people about why you feel that that is so important, why they feel it is in the best interest of our country and the American people, and why the American people should be willing to pay the price for it. As you said, it's already over $100 billion. Meanwhile, you look at a lot of folks who are still struggling and suffering here at home, both those who have been impacted by natural disasters, those in Mississippi, for example, who are still under a boiled water policy because they don't have access to clean drinking water that they can use for their families. I mean, there are so many basic challenges here that we are too often told we just can't afford it. We don't have the money for it. And yet we, the people, have had no say in this $100 billion that's gone over to fund this proxy war with Russia via Ukraine, what to speak of the suffering of the Ukrainian people. So what do we do, I think, is the big question right at this point, because we all have great compassion for the people of Ukraine. What Putin did is wrong, absolutely wrong, in invading Ukraine. These are not disputable things. The problem is that we have politicians in Washington and the Biden administration, as well as in Congress, who, even though they say they care for the people of Ukraine, are not doing what is necessary to bring about an end to this war, instead seeking to escalate it further and further, and doing so through their actions, which again really just shows their true motives, true intentions, which is feeding into the military-industrial complex. It's not about bringing about peace, because if it were, all the way back in February and in March and in subsequent months since, they would have been supporting a peace process rather than actively trying to block it.
Were you shocked when Zelenskyy gave that speech to Congress a couple of weeks ago and in essence said there will be no compromise? I mean, it's a little odd to say, and I agree with you on the, first off, we at Locals, we had an office in Ukraine. We had to move our guys out. We've gotten some of them to the United States, but some of them are in Macedonia right now. Like, I have complete sympathy for everyone there. But the guy that's in the war shows up here and says, I will not compromise with the guy with nukes. And everyone applauded. It's like, do you know what happens when the guy with nukes thinks he's losing?
Exactly. There was so much that was deeply disturbing about that speech, and how most members of Congress reacted with applause, with adoration, treating him as though he is some hero or rock star. I think one of the things that, in addition to the point that you mentioned about we have actively, and I hold our leaders responsible. Zelensky's going to do what Zelensky's going to do, but I hold our leaders responsible, President Biden, Democrat, Republican leaders in Congress, responsible for the decisions that they have made that have put the American people and our country at risk by escalating this war against a nuclear-armed power, pushing us to the brink of nuclear catastrophe. With no plan, with no investment, saying, okay, well, here we are. Good thing we went and invested trillions of dollars in underground bunkers for every American citizen to go and take shelter because we've put you in this situation. They've not done that at all. If anything, they've done it for themselves, but not for the American people, which leaves us in a position of perish in that scenario. But the other thing, in addition to that was so disturbing about his speech was how he spoke about freedom. And he spoke about democracy. And he's not only putting himself in the position as being this champion of democracy around the world, but our own leaders have lionized him and made this whole war about, well, we have to defend democracy and freedom in Ukraine, or else democracy and freedom in the world will be assaulted or attacked. Well, let's look at what kind of democracy Zelensky is leading in Ukraine. You know, he not only jailed his political opponents very, very, very early on, he banned their entire political party. You know, there are so many different, you know, he shut down any media that was not controlled by him and his government, essentially. So no free speech, no room for any political opposition. And then he went after religion. No religious freedom in this country. He shut down the second largest Christian church in that country. And for what? Under the guise of democracy and freedom? How is this representative of the kind of democracy that our founders envisioned? It doesn't. And so what I reflected on, what I think every American should think about as they watch this is the guy they have put as the figurehead of democracy. And we saw Republicans and Democrats cheering and applauding for this person who doesn't believe in free speech, doesn't believe in freedom of religion, doesn't believe in freedom or democracy really at all. And so we should not, therefore, then be surprised. If this is what they believe democracy is, then we shouldn't be surprised at the kinds of things that they're doing to undermine our own freedoms here at home and our own democracy here at home, because it's happening. It's not a question at this point. And this should be alarming for everybody, and not surprising that this is the direction that they're taking, which is not representative of democracy at all. It's more representative of a dictatorship or an authoritarian government.
Yeah, and the funny part is, I don't blame Zelensky for coming here and demanding money and demanding no compromise, because why the hell not? And then you walk away with everything you asked for. So he's doing what he believes is right for himself or his party or his country. And you've got a bunch of people here that are like, oh, how much can I write on that check? And
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the thing that's so crazy to me. I even after that speech, I think it was a couple of days ago, there was a story that popped up where Zelensky was basically saying that his quote unquote allies have no excuse not to send him these light armored vehicles. There's no excuse why they aren't just sending him exactly every single thing that he demands. That's crazy to me. And it's crazy. What's even crazier than his demands, though, is he knows what power he has, because he has the most powerful people in the United States of America bowing to him and giving him whatever he wants. And President Biden essentially ceding our country's foreign policy decisions to this guy in Ukraine. You know, when people ask the President Biden, well, when does this war end? When do we stop? When is enough enough? And he says, well, you know, we're in it. I'm not going to quote him directly because I don't have the quote, but he basically has said, we'll do whatever it takes. Mm-hmm. We're in this until this is up to Putin to decide. Like, what about your leadership, your responsibility as the President of the United States? What about the leadership of the head of the House, the head of the Senate from both political parties? Where is their leadership and their responsibility coming into play? Because they are certainly not serving the best interests of the American people, our security, and our country with these decisions.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of mindless drivel, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist, all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.